Hi, this is Mimi.
And this is Lee. In this episode of Beyond Dieting, we invite you to our discussion on this notion of both wanting to be at peace in your own skin while also wanting to change it. Can these two desires coexist? And by it, I mean change your body, change your looks. So let's have this discussion. To kick it off, I just want to say that in the body positivity movement, we are encouraged to love our bodies as they are and to become comfortable with what we have. Maybe even celebrate our bodies in their current shape and size. And I'm actually all for it. I'm all for that, except I start to go into a cold sweat over the idea that I have to stay this way forever. Like, can't I still have my goals?
I know I really have been struggling with this idea for a while. There's this real overwhelming desire to love my body exactly as it is. Like that's what we're being told in this body positivity movement, right? Like you can love your body exactly as it is. And intellectually, I know that I don't have to allow the shape of my body, the size of my body to mean anything about me as a person. And yet, I can feel it. There's still things about my body and its shape and its size that I wish were different. I mean, longer legs, right? Like I love a pair of those, and I really, it isn't even just the size and shape of it, right? It's like I miss that speed and ease at which my younger body could move.
Yeah, I totally get that. When you're middle aged, you start to feel things a lot differently. You see things a lot differently.
Yeah.
And your body, just so we can be clear on what we're talking about, your body includes more than shape and size. You might not be focused on your weight. Maybe you're not focused on your weight or your size, but as you age, you might start noticing with dismay that your skin tone is changing. And again, I'm all for embracing the beauty of age, all for it. Totally on board with that. I admire so many older women who are all shapes, sizes, skin types, etc. And it is a bit embarrassing to admit that I still get caught up in worrying about my neck and cleavage area because the skin there just did a 180 over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just noticed it. I don't know. But it's easy to wax poetic about loving your wrinkles and gray hair. But it's another thing entirely when it's your own mirror image staring back at you and under bright lights, no less.
I know. I think that's it's like the idea is, what if I just dim my lights? What if I just don't look? What if I never peer in a mirror? Right? Like we can find all of these ways not to look at ourselves. And I think one of the big areas that we can focus on and talk about is really this idea of acceptance. Like how can I accept my body? It's so easy to say, oh yeah, I can look in the mirror and I can accept these wrinkles. I can accept that, my skin might be a little saggier than it used to be, but it really is hard to do, isn't it, Lee?
It is, like, intellectually, I totally get it. And I'm all for this acceptance thing. And I've actually achieved some degree of acceptance. Like I'm still working on this. I think most women throughout their lives are working up accepting themselves, however they are. And so it's constant work. Or even, if they don't accept themselves, the downside is you never accept yourself and you're always at war with yourself and the way you are, the way you look, the way whatever it is about you that eats at you and gets under your skin. But this acceptance thing, I would say that it's on a continuum in terms of how I accept myself. Like some days I really embrace the wrinkles, the saggy skin, the body shape. I embrace it. And then I'll still have those times when something else creeps in and it's just hard to think that, oh, I'll never look like a 30-year-old again, or I'll never look like, or even a 55-year-old again.
Yeah, I think it's like that old 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the time I really can sit in this acceptance mode and be okay with it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like, it's the work, right, that we keep doing as we age. And I think one of the ways to boost acceptance and to make acceptance easier is to really step into a place of appreciation and gratitude. I mean, gratitude can solves so many problems, right? But I think one of gratitude's best task or best outcomes of gratitude, it really is appreciation. So like if you can start to look at your body and appreciate it for all of the beautiful things that it's done, for what it's doing right now and what it could do for you in the future. Like if you can look at that with, gratitude and appreciation, it helps that acceptance thing a little bit more.
Yeah, I just wrote a blog post this morning that dealt with this, that just talking about how, one's body is it's the reason you're alive. You can't be alive without a body, and our bodies have fought off infections. Like sometimes we do get a flu or some kind of bacterial thing, but most of the time, most of us spend relatively healthy. Like I know that's going to be different for each person, but think of all that your body does correctly and all that it manages, all that it deals with every day. I mean, my body's really strong, and overall in my life, I've had excellent health, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah. It's a good one. And I think another thing that helps too is really having realistic expectations. Like just how you were talking about, like your body is doing what your body's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be aging. Like this is a natural process. And there are things that you can do so that you age and help your body stay healthier, more mobile, more flexible. Whatever it is that you want your body to be doing, there's things you can do to aid it so that it lasts. But I think to be realistic about where you are, if you've never been somebody to run 5 miles and you get frustrated because you start a running regimen and you can't go a half a mile, and then it's like we internalize that, right? And we make it mean something.
Exactly. It's interesting. I've been sort of off and on practicing yoga. Definitely there's had an off on quality to my practice, but since I was 20 or maybe even 19, I've been practicing yoga. And I have had some physical challenges every year. I had a knee that was, had a kneecap that would go out of place. And so like some physical activities were really hard for me. So sometimes I felt like I was at war with my knee, or my knee was going to betray me, etc. So in yoga and other physical activities, I was always really scared that I would do something that would hurt my knee. And then I had surgery that corrected it, and I'm much, much stronger. And so I started trying to practice yoga more. And I'm glad I had the mindset I did when I got into it, because I just decided I don't need to look like my neighbor. I don't need to look like the teacher. I'm just going to get in a place in the room where I'm comfortable and I can do it my way, so that I can gently and kind of ease myself into this over time. I don't want an injury. My knees, my mobility, my knees are so important to me. And it's interesting because at the age of 59, I'm the best at yoga I've ever been, because I went ahead and participated in an off and on way. I allowed myself to suck, if you're like grading it by correct posture and doing everything the teacher says. I allowed myself to suck at it for a long time. And now it's like I've turned this kind of corner, and I'm like, oh, I can actually do this thing I never actually thought I could do.
Yeah, so that's really cool. And I bet really getting clear on why you wanted that and what you wanted your body to do, especially in that yoga practice, but really in all aspects of our life, is and your why has to be personal to you, right? Like your why in doing yoga and wanting to improve in your yoga and flexibility and all of the outcomes of yoga had to be for you and not for somebody else or some other reason, I'm guessing, right?
Yes. And a hard thing for me about yoga culture is at some point in the early 2000s, it went from being this thing that I learned from like hippie boho people in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which totally different style of yoga, one that I actually like, and moving to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and there are all these 20 somethings teaching it. And suddenly it's like an extreme sport. And my why was not their why. Their why was like, I can do these fantastical things. And not only that, I can take great pictures of myself while I'm doing it on a rock, on a cliff. And that wasn't my why. And so my why has more to do with breaking through the fear that I have in a lot of yoga postures. A lot of the one-legged things where you need to use balance, those go right into my fear around my knee. That is old fear of mine. And so for me, it's trying to gently encourage myself to stick with it, not press myself, not do it perfectly, but to start challenging the fears I have. And I think it's been good for me and internally more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think all of those things that we just discussed, appreciation, setting realistic expectations and really getting clear on why you want your body to do, all feed back into that idea of acceptance, right? Like if you can get clear on those things, it really helps with the idea of acceptance.
Right. And then we've mentioned it, we've touched on this, but comparing yourself to others, whether it's your body weight, your height, your hair, your eyes, your skin, your ability to do like extreme yoga, is a recipe for not feeling good about yourself. And so it's so important to be in your own kind of competition with yourself, and in a, like the best sense of that. Like, yesterday I could push to here, and today maybe I'll push a little bit more, but gently, and be very kind to myself. But when I start to look at someone else like the best person in the yoga class or the teacher and start thinking I should be like that, I just feel bad.
Yeah. Or if you're comparing yourself to your younger self, like things that I could do when I was 25, right?
Yeah, don't
That
do
I
that.
can't do now.
Yeah.
And it is just exercise, it's like everything. Like, how come that person can eat that way and stay slim and I can't? It's all of the things like, how come that person's skin looks so fabulous? And I've been slathering on sunscreen and lotions and trying all the stuff. Like, all of the ways that you compare yourself to other people can be it can be super hurtful to you, which is the opposite of being helpful.
Right. Yeah, body positivity does not come from compare and despair.
Yeah.
Or a why on whatever goal you have, so that you will be accepted, or something that involves other people. It's really strongest, I think, for people who want to make changes and also feel, practice feeling positive about themselves. It's so vital to stick with you.
Yeah. And because ultimately that's how you learn to love this body that you have right now.
Mhm.
Right. That's how you can appreciate this body that you have right now while you're trying to make it stronger or slimmer or more flexible, whatever your goal is.
So I can balance on one foot.
Ooh.
I can balance on one foot. So studies actually show, this is interesting. I think Mimi found this study. Studies show that seeing more body positivity posts on Instagram caused people who added those posts to their feeds to feel more positive about their own body. So that's a better way to, if you're going to compare, start looking for people who look like you and are at your level of something, or maybe just a little ahead, whatever.
Yeah. And it's the same, like, so think if you take that like body positivity image, I imagine that the same thing happens when you follow older women on Instagram.
Absolutely.
If your Instagram is full of people that are decades younger than you,
Mhm.
it's not reflective of where you are. But if you started following older women, some of our favorites are Jane Fonda, Judi Dench, Ellen Mirren. I mean, what a warrior she is for older women's rights. Jane Goodall. Judy Bloom is having a moment.
Yes.
That's like a flashback from our youth, but
Yay, Judy. Yeah.
I know, like, how strong and vital she is now. And the message that she started for women decades ago that is still so necessary. It's crazy. Like, you would think that we would be progressing past that, but young women are still having those same issues that we all had with our bodies, and being able to talk about it. It's so good. And Diane Keaton will forever be a I'll be a fan of hers.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah, I love her style. I mean, not her style wouldn't necessarily always work on me because I'm a different height, but I love her sense of style. Love it.
Yeah, I love the fun that she has with that. And I love the fun that she has with her social media feeds. So if you're not following her, she really is a joyful person to follow. And there's so many others. If you've got some, share them with us.
Yeah.
Let's really start spreading the word about this, that at any age you can learn to love your body, love your looks, and really appreciate your unique beauty.
Mhm.
And still really be relevant, like all of these women are that we just have been talking about.
Right. And these women are embracing their age in a very graceful way. They're still very youthful looking because I think at heart they are, and they're having fun with life, having fun with their wardrobes and their hair and stuff. Um, and they probably do, in addition to embracing their age, they probably do go get facials and peels and, things to help them feel better about something, and it feels good to take care of yourself that way. So that those are improvements. Like we started this podcast talking about, can you have body positivity, image positivity, and still do some stuff to, nurture yourself and feel young.
Yeah. And how do you do both? Right?
Mhm.
How do
How do
you
you do
do
that?
both of those things and stay sane?
Yeah, because it's like you're using different parts of your mind to work on both of those things. Um, I think, there's several things that come to mind when you're thinking about yourself and you notice maybe that you're thinking about yourself in a negative way. Uh, don't make big decisions just then at that moment.
Yeah.
Notice that you're having these negative thoughts where you've gotten away from, the positivity. I think doing any changes, and we talked about this, just a few moments ago, that, if you're going to make some changes, try to first get yourself in a place of loving yourself and accepting yourself, because it'll be better, even if it is a decision for plastic surgery or something like that.
Yeah. Because I can, when I reflect back on some of my choices, all of the ones that were most damaging, like the crazy diet I might try or an extreme exercise thing, were done from a moment of self-loathing, right? It's like, I'm so frustrated and angry and tired, I'm willing to try anything. And
Mhm.
I never pick wisely,
Yeah.
and I just have to remember that also my body is mine.
Yes.
Your body is yours. And so what you need and what works for you is not going to be the same for everyone. I think that goes back to the idea of comparison, right? Like something might work for somebody beautifully and not be the thing that's for you. So it's this idea of embracing your body, um, and trying to figure out what works for you, but to do it from a place of love, not loathing.
Yes. And then there's the kind of flip side of that is there's this sort of political correctness and theme correctness with women, like some women, and good for them. And I applaud them and I listen to them. Some women are like, don't dye your hair, don't get a facelift, don't do all this, don't buy fashion, and there's all this correctness about how you should be as an aging woman that goes too far to the other side where you feel guilty for getting a darn facial. Like you're somehow not being evolved enough if you decide you want to, get your hair color streaked or something.
Yeah, I think it comes down to really making decisions and knowing why you're making that decision.
Yeah. Mhm.
Are you making that decision um, for you because it'll make you feel better, make you feel stronger, like whatever it is. And like Lee said, like we're not anti-Botox, we're not anti-plastic surgery. I haven't had any yet, but I might at some point if I think, this will make me feel better about myself. I don't know, but just it's this idea of why are you doing it? Like if I felt like I had to do something dramatic to my body to get a job or book a gig or anything like that, I would hope that I wouldn't do it.
And
that
there's a fine line, like it's a gray area, because when you are in the public eye, it is, I would say it from a business sense, it depends on what you're public for, why you're in the public eye, but to present well is different from totally changing your looks or overly focusing on your looks just to be out in the public, so they're different. You can still maybe not wear your rattiest yoga pants on a stage. You can polish yourself if you want to be in the public eye without totally going to the other extreme of just everything's about looks and I have to have everything done. Does that distinction, I think, there's some clarifying for that distinction. You can still groom yourself well, whatever your standard is, whatever your style is, you can groom yourself, but is it making sense to me what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Kinda. I was like, I think there's like an appropriateness, right?
Yeah.
You want to say that, you want to show up at any situation appropriately, but I dye my hair because I'm not ready to see myself with gray hair yet. I'm loving playing with what color my hair is, and I'm okay with that. So, I think it's what makes you feel best and appropriate for the situation that you find yourself
Yes.
in.
Yeah, and there's no one answer for that. It's very individualized. I guess I'm trying to sort out like how I want to dissect this out so people get it. Like we said, we're not anti-Botox or dyeing your hair. And we do think that we are better off when we do some work around self-acceptance. Even though we'll do things like dye our hair or go get facials or whatever, we'll do that stuff. But, we also at the same time want to be working really hard on accepting and loving ourselves as we are.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes really is like when I can release worrying about what everyone else thinks.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
to go back to your, the idea of showing up in yoga pants on stage, there are women that can pull that off confidently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not to that place, right? Like there's a sense that when I feel like I'm dressed appropriately and for what the situation calls for, it gives me a confidence boost.
Yeah.
So in a way, is it, is it me? Like, would I necessarily dress this way and show up on stage in this fashion? I don't know. It's that those are the types of things that as women, we have to dissect all of the time. And not every time are you going to get it 100%. I've heard so many older women that got plastic surgery and they're like, in that moment, I knew exactly why I did it. And looking back, I wish I hadn't had to do that. Like, I wish I had been stronger in who I was and how I felt about myself and could just age naturally. There's this whole idea of aging gracefully. We'll have to have a whole nother podcast about that.
Whole other thing, yeah.
But I think we're not always going to make the right decision. We're not always going to make the call. Like we're just always trying to make the right decision in that moment. So releasing what everybody else thinks and trying to get into touch with yourself and why you're making that decision is I think always the right way to go.
Right. Yeah. I hope this is making sense to everyone. Another point that we think is important to talk about is if you have certain body goals, or if you're going to get a nip and a tuck or whatever you're doing to manage your own self-confidence and your own authenticity at the same time, you don't need to tell everyone. You're not obligated to tell everyone what you're doing with your own body.
Yeah, because not everybody's going to agree with you. In fact, I had a friend come ask me one time. She goes, "Oh, I think I'm thinking about getting this procedure. What do you think? Do you think I should get it?" And I'm like, "Okay, I don't care whether you get it or not. Like whether I think you should get it or not get it is irrelevant. I'm just wondering, since you feel this need to run around and ask everybody if they think you should do it, do you think you should do it? I said, I think you just need to sit down and have a serious conversation with yourself, because I think like if you feel like you have to go around and tell everybody what you're doing and ask for their approval and get their nod in beforehand so that you don't have to worry afterhand what they thought, that should be a big red flag.
Mhm, mhm,
If you just are confidently like, you know what, I am going to go get rid of this underarm flap and I'm so excited.
mhm. Yeah.
You don't need to ask their permission or to get their judgment on it. Like that's when like, oh yeah, this decision is for me.
And you don't even have to tell someone, it's really none of their business, like you don't go around asking what kind of toothpaste you should use and get everybody's approval and, need to hesitate over that. So it's your own body and you can just do what you need to do for yourself, for your own reasons, as long as you understand why, like Mimi was saying, why are you doing it? Are you coming from a healthy emotional space around this?
Yeah, because sadly we were all raised to have opinions about how women look,
Yes.
right? Like from very early on, we were taught to comment, because I don't know about you, but I was like, you got to dress up to go to this, you have to look nice, stand up, don't slouch, button your shirt, like all of these things that, our parents wanted us to do so that we appeared in a certain way and we portrayed our family and ourselves in a certain way. So that was happening because we were looking at what everybody else was doing and making sure everyone was falling in line with, how we were supposed to be showing up. So it's hard, this idea of, releasing everyone's opinions and because subconsciously we might be doing that same thing.
Mhm.
Oh, I took a little twist, right? So I think part of it that just made just like flash. I was like, the more you can stop judging other people for appearance, the easier it becomes for you,
Ooh,
right? The more
me.
I released,
Yeah.
thinking about somebody, their body, their clothes, like their hair, their skin, like the easier it became for me to release that judgment on myself.
Wow, I love that Mimi so much. Yeah, I mean, it is equally important to mind our thoughts. What are we thinking about other people and catch those negative opinions too, because you're turning that same judgment on yourself. Sometimes invisibly, you don't realize you're doing it, but being gentle and kind in your own mind about how other people appear and what they're going through. Because we live in a world that's very either or. It's, you're good or you're bad, you're right or you're wrong, you're pretty or you're ugly.
Oh my gosh, what magazine was it that had the do's and the don'ts and they put the big black
It's terrible. Yeah.
square across somebody's face and it was like, do dress like this, don't dress like that, do. And I was just like,
I know,
I
hard.
forgot all about that. I hope that's not still out there. I don't know what magazine that
It
was.
probably is. It probably is, but I just never felt comfortable with that. Like the poor person, if they opened that magazine and saw themselves,
That would be
the
devastating.
magazine's business what they're doing with their clothes.
Yeah. And it's like it's what's it called? Like spot it, got it.
Yes.
Like
Mhm.
the things that you're noticing about other people and that's resonating with you are probably the things that you're worried about yourself having.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
If you look at somebody and you think, just to stick with the arm things, like, oh my gosh, that poor woman, her arms are so flabby. She should probably have on a longer sleeve shirt.
Yeah.
It's probably because that's how you think about yourself. I know I
Exactly.
can catch myself in that same trap.
Yeah. So in this either or world, and we kind of started with the theme of can you learn to love yourself as you are and make changes, is a point we're trying to make, that you can do both, and it's okay to do both. We don't have to live in this either or world. I think that the more we can train ourselves in all aspects of life to not flip from one side to the other, because the good stuff is in the messy middle. And the path to sanity and peace is to learn to allow yourself to hold two seemingly opposing thoughts at the same time.
And we can do that.
We can do that. Mhm.
Yeah. So you absolutely can want to make changes here and there to your body, your skin, your hair, whatever it is, and heal your relationship with your body at the same time. I mean, it does take practice and it does take forgiveness when you stumble. We're all a work in progress and moving towards this goal. But if you give yourself permission to love this body just as it is now, while you're working to strengthen it, thin it, I wish we could lengthen it. That's what I don't have that technology yet, but whatever it is that you wish, like, you can love every bit of it
Yes.
right now through appreciation and those things that we were talking about before.
Amen.
Amen. You can do it. So we're glad you were here, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Bye.